Hey guys, welcome to one of the many instructional videos that I'll be doing for you for human biology this term. So the idea behind these videos is to give you a little bit of an introduction of what we're going to be covering in class the evening or a couple of evenings before we actually look at it, just so that you guys are coming into a class with a bit of a general understanding of what we'll be looking at. So this video today is going to look at what cells are, how they function and how they're made up. And at the end, there'll be a series of short questions which you'll be required to just answer and bring those answers to class so that we can have some class discussion around them. All right, let's get started. Cells. So the first thing that we need to know about cells is that our cells are the building block of life. Every living thing is made up of cells, and on the screen at the moment you'll see two cells. One is from an animal and one is from a plant. So part of this course as well, we'll be looking at the difference between plant and animal cells, but today we're mostly going to focus on animal cells, and that's because once you've got the concept of what a cell is and what the structures are, it's really easy to transfer it over, as there are very similar structures within both animal and plant cells, even though they look really different. So let's start with our animal cell. So animal cells look a little bit like this. They've got a whole heap of funky coloured things in the middle, and we refer to those things as organelles. So the best way to think about a cell is just kind of like a mini human body. So in our body, we've got things called organs, like our liver, our kidney, our heart, our brain, our pancreas, and each of our organs in our human body have a specific function which helps to keep us alive. For example, our pancreas produces insulin, which helps to keep control of our blood glucose levels. Obviously, if you have too much sugar in your body, it can cause a whole heap of problems, and same with not having enough sugar. Another organ which is very important is our kidneys, and our kidneys filter waste and help remove waste from our bodies. The most important, well, some will argue, but the most important organ in the human body is the brain, and that's the control center of our body, and that gets feedback from all our other organs in our body, which tell the brain what to do, and the brain will adjust it to make sure that we're all functioning okay. Now, this animal cell, it has a brain as well, but obviously we don't call it the brain, we call it something different, and it's this pink blob here with that funny hairy stuff, and this is called a nucleus. Now, that funny looking hairy stuff is actually deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, as you guys would have heard it called before. Now, this DNA contains your genetic makeup or your genetic information, which determines what you look like. Okay, and each cell in your body has a nucleus, and inside each of the nucleuses in each cell in your body is your DNA being stored. And that's going to be really important later on for when we talk about how cells reproduce. So first thing to note, nucleus, control center of the cell, also contains our DNA. Another organelle in our body here is this yellow organelle here with the squiggles on it, and this is called a mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria has a special or specific role, choose a word, Sarah, in the cell's organelle function, and that is basically producing energy. So it digests sugar and fat, and it transforms it into energy for the cell to use. That's the mitochondria, which gives the cell its energy. Another little organelle down here is our ribosome. Now, ribosomes are really important, and you can see them all scattered around the cell, and ribosomes are involved in putting proteins together and sorting out proteins, okay, which our cell needs to use. Over here, our other circular organelle is called a lysosome. Now, if we had to link the lysosome to an organ in the human body, it would be most closely related to our kidneys, because what the lysosome actually does is it filters out waste in the cell. So digests and removes waste and old or worn out organelles as well. So our lysosome, you can see there's quite a few of them here, pretty much the kidneys of the cell which filter and remove waste. So they've got a very important role in keeping our cells healthy. The next one we'll look at is a little bit complicated, and that's this big blue organelle here. So you can see it's got two ends of it. One end over here is called the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the end down here is called the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Now, just looking at it already, you can tell the difference. Our rough endoplasmic reticulum has these little ribosomes attached to it, where our smooth endoplasmic reticulum has not. The shape of our endoplasmic reticulum is very different in both ends as well. Our rough endoplasmic reticulum has folds of membranes, whereas our smooth endoplasmic reticulum looks more like a series of tubules and little curved sacs. But both ends of the endoplasmic reticulum are responsible for packing and transporting material through the cell. However, our rough endoplasmic reticulum is mostly responsible for transporting and proteins and making proteins. Okay, so that's why there's proteins there. And our smooth endoplasmic reticulum, as well as packing up and helping transport material, it also stores some calcium there. So that's the roles of the endoplasmic reticulum, both rough and smooth. So let's recap. Our endoplasmic reticulum, the rough end has ribosomes, the smooth end doesn't. Both help to transport and pack materials for being moved around the cell, and our smooth endoplasmic reticulum stores calcium, and our rough endoplasmic reticulum helps with protein manufacturing, so making proteins. This one down here, this little organelle, is called our Golgi apparatus, or our Golgi complex, or our Golgi body. So it has three names that it's normally referred to: Golgi apparatus, Golgi complex, or Golgi body. I'll be calling it our Golgi apparatus. However, you might read it different on the internet, and that's why I wanted to point that out to you. So our Golgi apparatus is an organelle which repackages and processes proteins as well that are being produced in our rough endoplasmic reticulum, and it gets these proteins that have been produced in our rough endoplasmic reticulum, and it gets them ready to be transported out the cell, which leads us to a very important organelle, which is our plasma cell membrane, which goes all the way around the cell. Now, for something like these proteins to actually get exported out of the cell, our plasma membrane controls that. So it's kind of like security. It tells us what's coming in and controls what's going out. So that's what our plasma cell membrane's role is, to make sure the cell is secure from things getting in and out, and as well as it holds all the cells together and stops all the organelles from floating away. Now, another organelle which isn't labelled here is this yellow stuff that's all around the cell, and that's just like kind of a jelly-like fluid, and it's called cytoplasm. And that holds some nutrients, but its main role is to kind of hold all the organelles. So they all kind of float around in this cytoplasm. So there we have it. We've covered organelles. We've covered our Golgi apparatus, our lysosome, our mitochondria, our ribosome, our nucleus, our plasma membrane, and our endoplasmic reticulum. So they are the only organelles which you'll need to know the function and structure of for this course. So I didn't want to overwhelm you too much. We're just going to stick with those 6 or 7 organelles. The next thing I just want to point out, because sometimes it gets a bit confusing, is that not all cells in the human body or the animal bodies look like this. This is just a generic cell that they use when we help students and people to learn about what our cells structure and their organelles functions are. There's lots of different cells in the body, and that's because, like I said before, there's lots of different things in our body, our own human body, that have different functions. So, for example, our muscles, the functions of our muscles are obviously to help us move, and our cells that are found in our muscles would obviously have to be different to our red blood cells because they have a different job. So here's our muscle cell here. It's funny looking and it's quite stretched out. Okay, so our muscle cells need to shrink and contract to help us with moving. They also require a lot more, they also have a lot more mitochondria, and that would be because we need to produce a lot more energy to help us move and run around, especially when we're doing sport. Our red blood cell over here, that has a special function, and that is to carry oxygen around the body. So it's shaped a little bit like a donut where oxygen can stick to it, and then it'll go around in our bloodstream and it'll transport oxygen to different cells in the body because cells need oxygen to help them survive as well. Another cell we'll just have a look at quickly is a neuron around down here, and neurons respond to stimulus and send messages back to the brain to let the brain know what's going on with the body. Okay, so we can see that there are lots of different cells in the human body, and they don't all look like the one that we were studying before, which is this one, but they do all have organelles in them, and they do all have a nucleus, so it's really important to note that. So that's a little brief introduction into cells. I'm going to finish with 4 or 5 questions that you'll need to answer, so grab a pen and paper or get typing on your netbook. The first question is, what is deoxyribonucleic acid? Question 2, which organelle is most like the kidney and why? Question 3, what controls things getting in or getting out of the cell? What controls things entering and leaving the cell? Was probably a better way to put that question. Question 4, what is the difference between a rough endoplasmic reticulum and a smooth endoplasmic reticulum? And our last cell, which is cell 5, are all cells the same? Why or why not? So that's been our first cell introductory. Hope you guys learned stuff, and we'll have a chat about this in class tomorrow. So see ya!